my pub! Go on!
Calm yourself down.
Get out of my pub!
Is Britain teetering on the edge of tyranny, or is this merely the storm before the calm? In a matter of weeks, over 700 citizens, farmers, mothers, pensioners, even teenagers have been swept up in a wave of arrests that has left the nation reeling. These are not criminals in the traditional sense, not vandals or terrorists, but ordinary people branded as threats for refusing to bend to a government flexing unprecedented muscle. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's administration has doubled down, wielding new laws like a hammer against dissent, while King Charles, in a rare and explosive intervention, has issued a stark warning that the nation is fracturing. What did the king say to Starmer? Why is the government unrelenting in its crackdown? And is Britain, the cradle of modern democracy, sliding into something unrecognizable? The storm is no longer brewing, it's here, and it's tearing the country apart. The arrests began quietly but have grown into a chilling pattern. Over 700 people in 3 weeks, detained not for violence or chaos but for what the government calls non-compliance. Farmers protesting land grabs, pensioners questioning crippling taxes, parents challenging new restrictions, all labeled as enemies of stability. At the core of this unrest is a farmland inheritance reform, sold as economic justice but wielded as a cudgel against rural communities. The policy revalues agricultural land at exorbitant rates, slapping families with inheritance taxes so punishing they face a brutal choice: sell ancestral farms to corporate giants or drown in debt. In Kent, a 74-year-old farmer was handcuffed for refusing to leave his barn. In Norfolk, peaceful village protests were met with riot shields and tear gas. What was meant to look like reform now reeks of a deliberate assault on Britain's rural heart. Starmer's response: force, not dialogue. He's refused to meet with affected communities, opting instead for a campaign of intimidation that's shocked even seasoned observers. Social media is flooded with videos of police dragging elderly women from council meetings, children sobbing as parents are hauled away, and veterans, once hailed as heroes, arrested for holding signs reading, "This is not the Britain I fought for." One image has seared itself into the national psyche: a disabled veteran in a wheelchair, surrounded by officers, clutching a sign with those same words. The clip went viral, crossing borders and sparking outrage across Europe. It was this moment, insiders say, that pushed King Charles to act. In a private meeting, the king, known for his restraint, reportedly slammed his fist on a desk, declaring, "This is tyranny in plain sight." He summoned Starmer for a direct call, bypassing protocol, and delivered a blunt warning: the nation is on the brink. The people's trust is fraying, and once it's gone for good. For a monarch bound by neutrality, this was a seismic breach of convention, a signal that Britain is in uncharted territory. But Starmer didn't flinch. Days later in Glasgow, he brushed off the king's warning and the growing unrest as noise. Standing before cameras, he declared, "We will not tolerate disruption masquerading as protest. Those who threaten our unity will face the full force of the law." The words were a gauntlet thrown down, equating dissent with division and peaceful protest with crime. The crackdown only intensified. In Essex, a mother was detained for pleading for heating cost relief at a town hall. In Cornwall, teenagers were warned that criticizing policy in school debates could be deemed inciting unrest. The message is clear: free speech is no longer a right but a privilege, one the government can snatch away at will. Town halls, once spaces for open debate, are now battlegrounds where citizens are escorted out or arrested for daring to speak. The nation is splitting at the seams. On one side, a government armed with vague, sweeping laws that criminalize non-compliance in ways that defy logic. On the other, a growing resistance, silent marches, candlelit vigils, underground networks that refuses to be cowed. In London, thousands gather with blank signs, their silence a deafening rebuke to a state that fears their voices. In Birmingham, churches and mosques band together to offer legal aid and shelter to families targeted by arrests. In Scotland, encrypted newsletters and secret meetings keep the resistance alive. This is no longer about policy disputes, it's about the soul of Britain itself. King Charles, meanwhile, faces a crisis unlike any in modern royal history. Palace insiders describe him as tormented, pacing late into the night, torn between constitutional neutrality and a moral imperative to act. His warning to Starmer was a rare step, but the government's defiance has left him at a crossroads. Speak out, and he risks a constitutional clash that could redefine the monarchy. Stay silent, and he risks watching Britain slide into repression under his reign. Protesters now gather outside Buckingham Palace, their signs pleading, "Speak now, Your Majesty, save our democracy." Petitions demanding royal intervention have amassed millions of signatures, and the press debates whether a king's silence is complicity or duty. The ghost of 1936 looms large, when a royal crisis shook the nation. But this is no scandal, it's a battle for freedom itself. Starmer, unmoved, presses on. His inner circle believes the public will eventually tire, accepting what they chillingly call new stability norms. Leaked memos reveal a strategy to recondition the public through fear and fatigue, breaking their will to resist. Every arrest is strategic, targeting not just individuals but entire communities. Leaked Home Office documents expose lists of instigators of instability, farmers, activists, even clergy who've done nothing but speak out. In Manchester, a pensioner named Margaret was dragged from her home for refusing to sell her land, her cries echoing as neighbours watched in horror. In Liverpool, parents questioning school surveillance were arrested mid-meeting. In Brighton, volunteers distributing flyers were charged with subversive material. None carried weapons, none posed threats, yet all were treated as enemies of the state. The world is watching, and it's not impressed. Human rights groups liken Britain's tactics to authoritarian regimes. The EU has paused civil liberties cooperation, citing systemic violations. Across the Atlantic, lawmakers call it a democratic emergency. Britain, once a beacon of liberty, now faces global condemnation. Yet the resistance grows stronger. Silent marches fill London's streets, blank signs and candles a testament to a people who won't be silenced. Underground networks spread information, bypassing censorship. In Leeds, vigils draw thousands. In Newcastle, curfews are defied with quiet defiance. The government can't arrest silence, and that silence is becoming a roar. Starmer's gamble is that fear will outlast courage. His speeches grow sharper, his warnings absolute. To him, dissenters aren't citizens but obstacles to order, to be crushed without mercy. But each arrest fuels the fire, each raid deepens the divide. Britain teeters on a knife's edge, caught between a government ruling through fear, a people refusing to yield, and a king whose next move could change everything. Will Charles break his silence and confront Starmer? Will the people rise in numbers too great to suppress? Or will the government succeed in breaking the nation's spirit? One thing is certain, this is no longer about taxes or land. It's about whether Britain remains a free country or becomes a state where obedience trumps all. The answer lies in what happens next, and the world is holding its breath.